Okay. So as I'm duty bound by the state of California, I'm just going to let you know that I'm recording this video.
All right, all right. State of California. You're living in Vegas,
But
aren't you?
it's a joke about when I used to live in the state of California, and every time I
Right, right.
started doing a video recording, I had to tell them that I was doing a video recording. And I'm assuming you're agreeing with the video recording. I'll take that. As we're both sipping coffee as two
Sure.
elderly gentlemen, I will say that you're taking that okay.
All right. I consent.
Very good. So I should say, I don't even know what I'm going to call this thing. I have this video channel called Last Monkey Standing, which I'm going to probably put this YouTube video on, because I was thinking, where do I put this in my YouTube video library? Do I put it in Barbelay? I can't put it in Barbelay. I can't put it. There are a bunch of places I can't put it, so I'm going to put
I
it in
thought I
Last
thought
Monkey
this
Standing.
I thought this was some sort of a podcast.
Well, it was originally the Biota cast, and then Bruce Jamer changed the name of Biota, and then it was going to be the post Biota cast. And then I started recording with Dr. Imi Khan. Dr. Imi Khan actually sent you a question, which I'm going to read out on the video portion of this podcast, and send a shout out to Imi Khan for putting up with me for about 3 years, very occasionally recording podcasts with her. So the thought was, it was going to be an audio podcast, but I thought the opportunity of just chatting with you and seeing your studio and your amazing stuff and things like that was, we've got to do it video. So this is my first video podcast, ever.
Yeah, I'll give you a good fly through, so you'll be
Very
able to
good.
see all the stuff I'm building. And I set something up just now, so we can start with that.
Wonderful. Well, let's start with what's above your head. Let's give an introduction to your studio, just to the place first.
Are you recording right now?
I warned you that I was recording.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yes, no, this thing up above here is a relatively elaborate ball made of tensegrity,
Yes.
which I can twirl around because it's just hanging. And if you look closely, you can see it's all based on tension. If I ping this like a guitar, the whole thing sort of wobbles back and forth.
Yes.
So I have a lot of things like this. um, I've sort of explored all the different shapes that you can do with this. So, for example, this shape here actually made it into
I like
a light. Yeah, not that it's fun to give it a purpose, but actually, the beauty of it is on its own. But it's a very it's a sort of a jelly-like behavior at a macro level.
Yes.
Super fun, and of course, everything is based on tension.
Certainly.
So if you zoom in on something, you can see that everything is hanging. Everything that's sort of everything solid is hanging. And then the different things I've made. Here's something I call Halo by Crane. Can you see that?
Certainly. I can't actually talk because when I talk, it throws to my video. So I'm
Right.
intentionally not talking, so it throws to your video for the entire. And apologies for people who are watching who have had me kind of talking and laughing and the video throwing backwards and forwards. But anyway, I'll let you continue, Gerald.
All right, I'll just give you a bit of the fly through. So this is something called Halo by Crane. It's where it makes a sort of a loop at the top, getting smaller. And what you can't really see unless you zoom in is that the bars at the bottom are thicker, and they get thinner on the way up, down to actually quite thin and small. So there's that, and also the cables are relatively thick at the bottom and gradually get thinner to quite thin at the top. So there's a sort of a graduation in it that you can't quite directly see. It's like I guess a Roman column or whatever, when they had a distortion in them that actually made them look better than they would have otherwise.
Certainly.
Anyway, so this is a recent one. I think I'll put it in the middle of the floor. Very simple, actually. but it's made with spring steel, and it's got some nice curves to it. And then hanging from the ceiling is the headless hug.
Very nice. Was that one of your first ones? Because I remember you simulating that for a period of time.
Yeah, and I simulated, of course, all of these. The Halo by Crane was probably the first one that I built that was elaborate, and then went on to a bunch of others. But that's what I do. So what I wanted to show you, what I set up beforehand was this. This is hilarious. With my mobile phone, I command a laser. You see that?
Yes.
There's a laser, and you can see maybe there's a rectangle being projected.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, so on that rectangle shall be written, 1 second, some things happen by chance. Just a little piece of wisdom.
Mm.
So I go next. Second. A little stronger. And then we go. So now maybe you can see the laser scooting back and forth. Can you see that?
Just. It's very
I can't,
difficult to see, unfortunately, because of
I can't get very close.
yes, because of the laser.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm writing things on the inside of this this ball as a latest art piece. And this ball is made of the slats of a bed
Mm.
that I found beside the garbage.
Can we look outside the window, Gerald? Because you have a beautiful view outside your studio window, and I just wanted to.
It's not the best of weather. Yeah.
So, where is your studio based? Not trying to get people stalking you, but
I'm in downtown Rotterdam.
oh, okay. Is that the original location for your beautiful code studio, or is that in a different place?
No, I used to only use my my home as sort of address.
Uh-huh.
And since the pandemic, I have this studio.
Very nice. So you got it at the end of the pandemic or the start of the pandemic?
The very start. So
Oh,
for my first year here, and I decided to sort of pivot because for years and years I've built all sorts of sort of structural fun stuff in the computer.
mm,
And I thought, can I ever build something in real life
mm.
comparable? So that sort of coincided with the pandemic. So I suddenly had like a year with no.
Sorry, I'm going to laugh at that.
So I suddenly had a year with no disturbances and nothing really caring for my attention. So I was able to sort of explore and, find my way to do this because it wasn't easy. And I've got the whole sort of history documented of all the experiments I did, but, it took a while to get the right sort of approach. It was remarkably difficult and I went on several different sort of, pathways that didn't really lead the right direction. I had to sort of just stop and rethink it. So it's all really in the details. It's all about making the connections between the cables and the bars.
Certainly.
And that's where the trick lies, and in the process of building. So, I built a couple of really sort of complicated ones and learned a lot about, that process and how it's, I do it, together with the computer.
Certainly.
So I refer to sort of visual elements in what I see on the screen, and that corresponds to length that I have to cut and insert into the
Certainly.
structure as it
So what's
as
the
it grows.
distinction between the tactile element of actually building them physically and
Hmm.
the simulation element, given the fact that you spent so long with the simulation elements as well? What do you learn in the tactile? Just nuances with regards to the physics, or what do you learn?
Uh, Second, I'm shutting off the lid.
No problem.
Um, uh, Let me just show you kind of how the two inter react, because in a way it's like,
Interfere, yes.
yeah, I mean, there's a back and forth. That's the thing, it's not really one to the other. On the one hand, I generate these structures in the computer, and then I'm the 3D printer that turns them into real. Uh, but on the other hand, I've built things like this to help me do naming of software elements. And without this sort of 3D structure, certainly in some cases, in your hands able to twirl and everything, you lose your mind. You just can't get the geometry right.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. So, for me, it's sort of it's a back and forth in a way. I learn things from building that I end up wanting to do in the virtual. Here's a good example for example. I used to build using elements that look like this, actually, made of 6 bars.
Yes.
And then I started connecting them together, and it became sort of like little bubbles attached to each other. And I really wanted to build differently. I wanted to build it so that this was sort of not bubbles, but sort of a straight line.
Certainly.
So in order to do that, I have to build with sets of 3 and connect sets of 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that physically, and then I thought I should be doing exactly the same in the software. So then I went, back to the drawing board in the software, and the
Yeah,
way that I grow things, I completely sort of rewrote it because it makes more sense to do it in sets of 3. It's a smaller unit,
certainly.
but it involves a bunch of complexity too, because you're talking about switching chirality. This is all
Certainly.
stuff that normal people don't have to deal with.
Yes. Well,
But
you're
anyway,
talking about the
that's
rise of polygons. I mean, you're just describing the rise of polygons in computer graphics as well.
yeah.
That the same principle is there. You've got 3 points, you're manipulating them, and in order to create very detailed tessellations and a bunch of different stuff, you need that as well. So
Yeah. And my shtick nowadays is that you kind of got to learn this stuff with your hands. I'm glad you ordered one. I'm glad you ordered one, because
yes,
I guess you haven't gotten it yet, but in a couple of days.
hopefully. The international postal system is a very curious beast, and I'm amazed that you can even get them to massage parlors in the US based on the US postal system. So hats off to you for that.
Yeah, well, it does take a while. I get a warning when I send something to the United States of America
Yes,
that there are delays in the destination country. So
yes. I think the longest I've ever waited for a parcel, which ironically was the Plotnik's medals, the fellow who fought in Waterloo and also the Franco-Prussian War. His medals were in for 19 weeks in the US postal system.
hmm
So I had to wait for 19 weeks for these heirlooms that have been across the Atlantic maybe 5 times to finally arrive to me.
and that's
In the
that's
postal
also
service.
that's also 5 weeks of uncertainty. I mean,
Without question. No. Believe me, the reason I'm an elderly gentleman talking to you is because that's just the nature of living in this country. That
hmm
you have all these agents, ironically, who put the distance between you and getting what you need to do, and you just have to deal with the uncertainty. So I admire you for dealing with the uncertainty in a physical structure in your hands that you can then post to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole idea. Communication. I've been asked to do a talk in the south of France this summer,
Mm,
in August,
mm.
for people who build, for architects who design
Of course,
buildings based on the zone.
yes.
This idea of sort of like parallel edges. So they make all sorts of sort of organic kind of structures. I don't know. I guess it's a group of architects. Interesting. And so they contacted me and they wanted to have a tensegrity workshop. And I said, are you sure? Because tensegrity has nothing to do with the stuff that you guys do. And he said, yeah, no, we just want to see what it is. So I thought, okay,
So
go for it.
you should have just sent them a bunch of you should have sent them like a multiple of 3 of the package that I ordered, and then leave them to it. I guess you want to go talk to them so you can get some cross pollination in the discussion.
You want to pay a little hard to get, right? So anyway, so I'm going to go to in August. I'm going to go to France and give a talk to a bunch of people. And they asked me, before I went, they asked me, "Do you have a book that you wrote and you want to sell or something like that?" And I said, "Not really, but I'll bring a suitcase full of these, and I'll sell that. How about that?"
Very good.
So that's my plan. My plan is to recoup my transportation costs by selling a bunch of these.
Very good. If you need a dancing monkey in front of your cart, please let me know. I'll come and dance for your sales.
So you saw Tommy Torque, did you?
I did. That really resonated very strongly with me. I'm not sure if it's named after me or some anonymous Tommy in the future, but
it just rhymed. It just rhymed.
Yes. Anyway, so we have a topic. We had a couple of topics actually, but you threw a curveball at me in the last few days, which I thought was absolutely
things interesting.
It makes things very interesting. And I have a small group of people that I'm writing papers with currently, including Dr. Imi Khan. And Dr. Imi Khan, who was up late last night doing a bunch of additional things for me, at 4 a.m. this morning, so literally 2 hours ago, said that he got the email about Gerald, but he's a little bit skeptical. Oh, look, no, I'm not even going to throw to that. Let us say, firstly, that you sent me a photograph associated with Bitcoin, someone associated with the Bitcoin community. You don't need to name
Ralph Merkel.
Very good. Pointing out that my interpretation of it, after about 5 minutes of staring at it, was that the assertion was that Bitcoin was a life, basically. But that could have been your assertion or Ralph Merkel's assertion. I'm not sure specifically.
No, I saw the Ralph Merkel quote, and I saw myself reflected in it, shall we say?
Yes.
But this is an idea I've had for a while.
Certainly. So let's talk about the idea, and then let's get to Imi Khan's question.
All right. What do you want to know?
Well, okay. So let's obviously I'm partially sitting to you in beautiful Las Vegas with my wonderful daughters and wife sleeping behind me because I was involved with this little gimmick called video streaming, right? I sit in a very nice house with the sun reflecting in me because I was involved with this gimmick, which is now, I don't know, more than 50% of the internet's traffic associated with video streaming. And you're sitting in a beautiful location, which I one day hope will be able to walk into and see firsthand, because you also have had a connection with a particular thing in the past, which enables you now to be a retired gentleman of leisure, let us just say. So is that a good introduction with regards to Bitcoin? How would you introduce Bitcoin?
Well, see, basically my experience of it is that back in about like 2003 or so, I was working at a company in Rotterdam, and I found a book on a bookshelf talking about different kinds of money, and I thought, what's that about? So I picked that up, and I found a very interesting book. So I've been thinking about that kind of thing for a while. I mean, for a number of years before any of this happened. And then I was sort of tuned, sort of ready, not involved financially at all, but very tuned to when the great financial crisis happened in 2008.
One of the many in the past 2 decades.
Yeah, but I mean, this was the first sort of rather large problem that had to be solved with a lot of liquidity.
Okay,
anyway,
I might argue that with you, but let us continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, my view is that there have been many of these crises in the past 20 years. The 2008 one does have some interesting factors to it, but I was also involved with the 2001 issue, obviously planes and various other things, and also the dot-com speculation, failures. And 2008 had certain qualities to it, but I'll let you continue your story.
Right. Okay. Anyway, so for me, this sort of swept away all my faith in the existing fiat system. But and so I was thinking, okay, I want to buy bricks of gold or something. Where would I put them? I have some savings. I could use I could use like a house as a bank account, and just deposit there like everybody else is supposed to do. Um, so I was, I really didn't know where to go with this, but I just had this thing in the back of my mind. I'd sort of explored different kinds of money back in the day, and then the crash happened, and I read a bunch of books, right? I read like Too Big to Fail and
Of course.
a bunch of these books after the fact. And the whole thing didn't really. It's what happened shouldn't really be happening. So at this very moment, actually, Satoshi finally brought the different pieces together of Bitcoin, and created something like you could say it's a computer science breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like up until that point, like we had computers, then we connected them together, and we had the internet. And the internet is basically one huge copying machine,
Mm-hmm.
in the form of caching. So now before you see a web page, it's in your browser. So it has been copied locally. So basically since the rise of the internet, which was, in the 90s, we have this amazing copy machine, which copy, information gets copied. And then Satoshi came up with a collection of ideas to reintroduce scarcity and guarantee and guarantee it thermodynamically.
Mm.
With, in other words, a connection to the real world.
Certainly. Or at least the physics.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, impervious to Moore's law. That was clever.
Yes.
So yeah, that's it. Basically, here, I'll show you what Bitcoin looks like to me. Yeah. To me, it's like this.
Yes.
The measuring tape. So we have like 840,000 blocks right now. In a year's time, we'll have a few more blocks, and then we'll have a few more blocks, and then, but in 100 years' time, we'll have a. So you'll be able to look at the whole history and see what happened. And basically, it doesn't care. It doesn't care whatever banks do. It just doesn't care. It technically doesn't care.
Yes.
The other way around, of course, there's a lot of care. It's an interesting phenomenon for a lot of people to look at, and that makes sense. But Bitcoin itself is just a machine, which has established its existence basically by incentivizing humans. This is a fact. I mean, this is a.
Without question, I'm not arguing with you. I'm saying testify.
It incentivizes humans to find otherwise wasted energy and run a computation to carry on with this measuring tape.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
But it has a built-in incentivization. It has built-in, comfort with Moore's law, which is just totally bizarre. That was a real stroke of genius. And it's tied to the real world. So have you? I grew up in Ontario, Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just a little bit north of us, it's like the Canadian Shield. So this is like
certainly.
a whole area that was scraped rather raw by the glaciers
Yes.
12,000 years ago, and then they receded. So there's a lot of granite and a lot of bare rock, kind of like Finland or something.
Hmm.
Anyway, so growing up, I went camping a lot, and one thing I saw a lot was lichen
Hmm.
on rocks, right?
Hmm.
And there's a really interesting article online that draws a parallel between lichen and Bitcoin proof of
Hmm.
work,
Hmm.
which is if they're you start with bare rock, there's nothing you can build a forest on.
Certainly.
But this stuff lichen, which is a symbiosis of like algae and fungus,
Certainly.
it's the only thing that can basically establish itself on the bare rock.
Certainly.
And once you've had a serious amount of time with lichen growing, then the rock becomes more crumbly and eventually gets something resembling soil.
Certainly.
And the first things start to grow and then these things catch all the light and make lichen irrelevant.
Mm.
And the lichen disappears and it's covered by mosses and whatever else. So lichen is a pioneer species.
Hmm.
And Bitcoin is a pioneer species regarding energy.
Yes. Yes.
It has to search out the cheapest, most renewable energy because it can't pay anymore. It doesn't pay as much as we do
Yes.
because if it did, then that wouldn't work out. So it would adjust basically. So it's the most miserly energy consumer in the world.
Yes.
If you have so there's this company called Gridless. I think they're called Gridless. They're active in Africa.
Mm.
And there are places where people do not have or use electricity, and they have a lot of trouble getting any uh, dependable source of electricity. So, so what they're doing is they're building sort of small scale solar farms, but the people are not ready to buy anything yet because they don't have refrigerators yet.
Mm.
They want to maybe charge their phones or something. So, it's not established yet. But because they can mine Bitcoin, they can justify building the solar farm.
Mm.
The moment that anyone is doing something productive and willing to buy energy at a slightly higher rate, it becomes it's like lichen. There's no place for it anymore because the next thing is taken over. So people are not mining Bitcoin in cities.
No.
The expensive energy is filling up cars.
Yes.
It's only the cheap energy that this A life wants to consume.
Certainly.
So it's a pioneer species searching for ways to release otherwise wasted energy. So they have some of these attached to like what would otherwise be flared natural gas in Texas and stuff.
Mm.
So you just park a container beside a flare and you cap it because it's wasted energy and it would be burned
Certainly.
anyway. And then you run a generator for a couple of months or whatever on that, and when it's done, you pick up the container and you move to another one. So you're basically capturing otherwise wasted energy and reducing the amount of pollution actually.
Yes.
So anyway, that's the interesting part of it. Other than that, the price of it, yeah, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up on a trend generally because it's not stretchy. That's the key thing here. I can't get this to be any longer than it
Yes.
already is. And when your national debt goes up to 34.5 trillion, I mean, that's one elastic.
Yes.
That's one elastic system there you got. So, if you compare an elastic system to a non-elastic system, you're gonna see it. You're gonna see a trend.
Hmm.
So, any questions?
I have, well, I'm going to read Dr. Khan's question because he sent it to me. Um, he said that basically there have been a lot of papers associated with Bitcoin being A-Life submitted to the A-Life conference. Have you ever tried to submit a paper to the A-Life conference associated with your hypothesis?
No, no, no.
Very good.
This is just a pet idea.
Very good. So he was wondering because they've been submitted anonymously, and a number have been submitted. So he was just wondering if you were one of the anonymous many that have.
Nope, nope.
Very good. And I said he's in luck because he's being interviewed by me, a sleep deprived schmuck. But I mean, exactly what you're saying. A friend of mine, Ray Walsh, speaking of sleep deprived schmucks, has been doing this in Kentucky for many years. He grows truffles and mines Bitcoin, which I think is a perfect example of putting what appears to be two very esoteric things. But as you described Bitcoin, obviously it's incredibly smart to be doing the two things together.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I would never get into mining Bitcoin. That's a complicated business. It's also very sort of, it's super competitive, and every 4 years, so the way Bitcoin works, it's like, suppose that you're not talking Bitcoin, but you're talking about gold.
Yes.
Now, gold is buried in the ground. Bitcoin is buried in the future by computation, by computational irreducibility, I guess you'd say in Wolfram terms. Anyway, so suppose that the price of gold were to go 10x. That means that there's a bunch of dirty gold mines that are going to be reopened. That means that there's a whole bunch more gold going to get mined in the year following and the years following. And that means that the supply of gold entering the market is going to increase, probably double. I don't know how that works exactly, but it'll rise because all sorts of untapped resources are suddenly, economically feasible. So what happens when there's 10x in the gold price? Then twice as much gold appears every year, shall we say? And whenever that happens in Bitcoin, there's nothing you can do. It's buried in the future. The only way to get there is to do computation. And the more computation you do, the more chance of getting there. It's to me, it's like, okay, we back in days past glories. You've been doing this stuff for frickin' decades. As have I, of course, my stuff. So it's changed a little bit. But back in the day, we were talking about. I think we were talking about this together at some point about A-Life, and how the fact that it's like heating up the chips.
Yes.
Yeah. So you feed it energy, it's heating up the chips, and what is it exactly accomplishing? That's a little bit hard to describe. So
I feel it was easier to describe than you did, but it was certainly a topic of conversation, I think.
Well, I mean, you've spent a lot of time trying to describe it all, or you've been playing around with this stuff for ages. Anyway, the point of it is this is software that basically heats up the chips when you feed it energy.
Exactly.
And something is happening, but is it really useful? It's an interesting idea, so it's good to sort of have that to chew on in your head.
It's good at conferences. It makes good display fodder. The graphics are cool to show at conferences and say, he's actually getting these graphics out while these chips are getting hot, doing all this stuff. So yes.
But the thing that was missing, the reason that Noble Ape isn't running on all the data centers, in all over the world, is that it didn't incentivize people to support it like Bitcoin did. And that's true of Noble Ape and all the other A-Life projects. There was lots of A-Life projects. People did different things and they were all real interesting. But then one came along that had figured out, or, the design of it incorporated incentivization to continue living. So
Yeah.
it had a life wish or a drive to survive. Like what happens in every 4 years in Bitcoin is it's like you have gold mines everywhere, but lockstep every 4 years, half of the gold mines vanish.
Yes.
And nobody can do anything about it. That's, interesting. Regarding, would you like to use gold? Would you like to use Bitcoin? There's an interesting difference there. It's not influenced by demand.
Yes.
And that's
a
pretty
very important point, I think. I certainly have a lot of gold jewelry from, between 800 and 1200 AD, wedding rings and things like that, which I've just collected over the years. And they go up and down in price. But I think they're just interesting trinkets to kind of dot around my study, actually. Because it's interesting, as you say, the rise and fall of metal. The Viking ones are very big and bold and, they're quite extraordinary, how different they are. And then you can see the economic changes basically in that time period based on ring sizes, or ring detail and whether they're elaborate, whether they're just very simple rings. So yes, I've certainly got in my little historical archive here some interesting stuff with regards to gold specifically. So. Anyway, what other topics would you like to talk about?
Well, first of all, do you agree that at the moment, by far the most prominent A-Life in existence is Bitcoin?
I think it is a very persuasive argument. You've persuaded me relatively quickly. And certainly the fact that people like Dr. Imi Khan are saying this is being continuously submitted to A-Life conferences and we've never accepted the paper associated with that seems to make me think that you're probably along the right track. That seems to ring very true with me, that I think you probably have a very good point there that probably should have been considered, well, I don't know, within the past decade at least, seriously.
For me, this is one of these cases where somebody's not going to understand something if their salary depends on not understanding it. Because ultimately Bitcoin is a humility test.
Yes. That's a very good way of stating it, I think. Yes. Well, you've continued.
Yeah. No, other than that, I mean, I've been, for a couple of years now, I've been building these physical structures and playing around with the software too, building that on that further as well. And I keep working on both.
Why do you think Python is the language that it has become versus a language like Rust, say?
That's the whole different topic, but I can elaborate on something like that.
Let's move that direction. If you feel that we've covered Bitcoin sufficiently.
Python is a lot friendlier, and it has some sort of inherent. It forces you to format properly, for example.
Yes.
And it's sort of easy to work with. There's a whole bunch of things that really work easily, especially like the Jupyter notebooks or something. Those are fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So why not JavaScript in that? Because I think JavaScript has those qualities too.
JavaScript is a mess. Relatively speaking, it's a steaming pile.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I'm sympathetic to that.
Yeah, Python is a lot sort of cleaner, more fit for if you have to learn a language and you're not really, going to learn them all because you're not working in the business, then it's a good one to do,
Fair enough.
especially for like scripting and stuff.
Fair enough. I would
But
agree with that.
it has its performance limitations, and for me, Rust is like Back to the Future, but then like better.
Mm.
It's like I'm transported back to the days when I used to code in C a lot, professionally as well for a bunch of years.
Certainly.
And I think of, that relative to that, Rust is just a dream
So what
because,
qualities do you like in Rust that you didn't have in C?
oh my goodness, especially, I mean, the highest probably on the list is things like, um, zero cost abstraction.
Mm.
You can actually code up an abstraction that is really helpful in a bunch of ways conceptually. And it actually doesn't cost you performance because it's really, it's essentially zero cost. That's fantastic because then you can really, you can express things in an accurate way and make sure what you're doing is accurate. So, for mission critical stuff, for a whole bunch of applications, if I were in any of these teams and then people were thinking of C or C++ for something like that, I would be pounding on the tables for Rust because it's just so much more well structured.
Mm.
The borrow checking is super interesting too. It's like different. It's different than any other language in that way. It really challenges you on certain levels.
Certainly.
And it has its dangerous corners too.
Well, it specifies what's unsafe very quickly.
Yeah, there's that, but there's also, if the deeper you get into programming Rust, the more you'll encounter things like lifetimes.
Mm.
And that's you better put your thinking cap on then because that can get interesting.
Yes.
And you can also really stumble on it. Like for example, there was I was working on something a year and a half ago, and it all came down to basically one little red squiggle under some of my code in like a very central loop in the code. There was a squiggle. And I thought, okay, that's all. That's the only problem left. I can handle that. So in order to remove that squiggle, I had to introduce lifetimes. And introducing lifetimes was a thing that cascaded through a huge tree of code.
Mm.
And made it all obnoxious and difficult to read or more difficult to read, a lot more syntax action happening. And eventually it came down to a rollback and think about this again because it's fascinating. I had that same thing happen to me in Java back in the day, like back in like 2001 or something.
Mm.
I got completely infatuated with generics.
Mm.
To the extent that I, generified a whole application I was working on and
Yes.
discovered afterwards that I was wasting my time.
Certainly. Yes. Yes.
But it was a fascinating adventure. I thought, for a while there it was the solution to everything. And I learned that it wasn't.
Yes. Yes. You were in Java for a good 10 years, I remember, at least.
Yeah, no, I started right at the beginning of that. That was sort of the start of my professional career after university. It was when
So 95 or earlier than 95?
About 96, actually.
Yeah, because Gosling came to ANU, I think, in 96. So that was the big, they threw away all the C books. So I bought all the C books cheaply. The academics threw them away, which is why I program in C. Because basically I bought a bunch of C books when they all threw them away to start learning Java and realized that I missed out on Java about 20 years too late. But yeah, I certainly know my C, at least. It's interesting, actually, the conversion between C to Rust, because I've gotten pretty close. I still need to explore unsafes around some of my memory use, but I think once I've squashed that, I can actually get it to convert pretty transparently. So
yeah, well, if you manage to do that without a paradigm shift in your head, good luck to you.
Oh, I've had about 4 already. So my view is that it's that fifth, it's the moving
Like
back into safety that I'm looking for specifically.
Rust being Borrow based is just different. So,
Mm.
you know, either you get your head around that or you ignore it. But,
Mm.
you know, it's a different way of thinking about how to handle things.
Certainly, certainly. So what else would you like to talk about, Charles?
There's another A life encroaching on Bitcoin,
Hmm.
and it's encroaching on the data centers, consuming energy more and more as we speak. And in fact, there's a whole huge investment wave preparing for its arrival in the form of Nvidia going way up.
Of course, yes.
People are preemptively building up infrastructure. So can you guess what it is?
Well, I don't know. I have a few of these books lying around here. Does it have something to do with this, for example?
It may be related to linear algebra. It
So
it
let me try this
it
book.
it may or may not involve dot products.
How about this? Let's see. Let me do it on the side here. I also need to point out I'm not actually promoting any of the many O'Reilly books that my friends have written. Um, it doesn't involve Erlang, does it?
No.
I'm teasing you. I'm teasing.
Erlang had some cool features to it, though.
Erlang certainly had a number of cool features to it. And I have a friend in, I think he's in Italy now, but he might be in London, who, he and I worked at Ericsson where Erlang was coming out. And I actually knew, what's the name of the founder of Erlang's, what's his name? He's passed away. I can't think of the fellow's name. Anyway, he and I used to joke about it because when we met him in Sweden, he was always enjoying ice cream on his deck. He was very much a retired gentleman who liked to enjoy ice cream on his deck. When he came to talk at the place that I used to work, associated with video streaming, I introduced him by talking about his fascination with ice cream. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I don't think anyone had realized that he was actually an ice cream aficionado before he wrote Erlang. But anyway, that was a funny, and yes, he came, I think on one main occasion, to do a big talk. What was his name?
I'm reminded of another language sort of high point that I had. I was once I went on a whim over to London to go to Scala Days.
You
remember Scala is a very interesting language as well. So I was at Scala Days, and there was this presentation with two people on stage with an interviewer, and one of them was a guy called Simon Peyton Jones, who invented Haskell. I think it is.
No, I know Simon Peyton Jones. Yeah.
And the other one was Martin Odersky, who's the sort of the main great grandfather of all Scala.
Yes.
And they were talking with each other, and these people are, both of them are like the foundation of huge mountains of effort. It's really quite amazing.
Yes.
And they were musing about Rust.
Yes.
And they were musing amongst themselves in front of 3,000 people attentively listening.
Yes.
And they were saying, I don't know how they made all those decisions correctly. Because that's hard. It's amazing that they were able to make all those decisions and get it right. So they were impressed by and this sort of Rust came out of Mozilla, right? Which is
of course, yeah.
quite something to come out of.
Yes, most definitely. Joe Armstrong was the gentleman's name. It took me 5 scrolls through my phone to actually go through all the Erlang related stuff to get to Joe Armstrong's name.
Oh, right, yeah.
But he was quite the character. A British academic who ended up living in Sweden because basically Ericsson kept him in business. So, yes.
Right.
Anyway, so what else would you like to talk about, Gerald?
Oh, I don't know. Do you have any ideas?
I don't know. I think I still can't remember who the person who worked for the EU. I reached out to Justin Lyon. He hasn't gotten back to me. I reached out to Jeffrey Ventrella. I think it was possibly Jeffrey Ventrella. who worked for the.
I don't think he's had anything to do with the EU, to be honest.
Okay, okay, because someone was tracking Nazi artwork, which was just a fascinating use of artificial light, and I'm trying to
No,
find who that person was.
no.
And
Well, good luck.
for the life of me, I've been through. I've got to now listen to the entire Biota live recording
Hmm.
series to actually get the information out. But
Right.
yeah, yeah, we've got a
Yeah,
long history, you and I, Gerald.
yeah,
It goes
kind of,
back many
kind of.
decades.
Although I've never really claimed to be someone who has created much a life or much, you know. What I did was I did some evolution experiments,
Certainly,
and I was able to sort of point out some interesting things with regard to, you know, climbing a kind of a smooth landscape of
certainly.
fitness.
Fitness functions, yes, yes,
Yeah, but the fact that, you know, I had it as a process of many muscles sort of learning to coordinate with each other,
yes,
and that makes it so that if there's a mutation, then, you know, one muscle being off is not typically deadly,
fatal, yes,
and occasionally it's an advantage.
yes,
And so if the system sort of combs the population enough and lets the sort of the winners have children and then mutate every new creation, then you're going to have this sort of accidental stumbling up the slopes of the fitness landscape, and it's a fairly smooth one because any small change is really only a small change in an ability to walk.
yes.
So that was a fascinating thing to do, but and it simulates something that might be alive. But
Definitely,
it's not
maybe.
but it's not alive like Bitcoin is.
No, no, no. I think that's the thing that got me immediately, because all the metaphors that are associated with Bitcoin are basically A-life metaphors.
Hmm.
And it just, if the language, the strange human language that mysteriously you and I both speak, maps towards a certain set of ideas, usually it's a kind of folksy sense that there might actually be something there, which I certainly was very sympathetic to when I first looked at the picture and thought, of the past 2 weeks of the things we've discussed, what has this picture got to do with? And slowly but surely work through the process that Bitcoin as A-life is the topic you wanted to talk about. So
Yeah.
I thought that was useful.
The biggest contribution that Bitcoin has had at all to society by far is the fact that it sort of taught us to and allowed us to question what money is and where it comes from.
Certainly.
Because before then, before Bitcoin arrived, people did not use the word fiat, and now
Ah,
you can see the word fiat
ah,
being used. So there's been a
ah.
real mimetic shift,
Yes, yes, most
and
definitely.
so every people kind of know that fiat is, or people are getting a little more clear on what it is and what it isn't.
Yes, yes. No, the curtains in my room broke about a year ago, and I haven't had them fixed. So hence,
Oh, so that's not a salute.
no, it's not a salute. No, no, believe me, it's not a salute. Let me take a piece of paper and cover my. No, that's just a function of also the neighbor with his motorcycle. Um, but yeah, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can change around. Let me
Well,
see if I can find. Sorry.
I hope you have fun in a couple of days when you receive my
Well, I hope I
tentegrities.
receive it in a couple of days. But yes, I'll
You
have fun
will.
when I receive it. My daughters and I are going to sit down cross-legged,
Yeah.
play with Lego blocks, which is what we do. And they love building structures. And then I'm going to pull out the tensegrities. I don't know if have you had any experience with regards to preschoolers playing with your stuff?
Preschoolers, not so much, but schoolers, yes. I had
Hmm.
a session a while ago with grades 7 and 8,
Ooh,
which was a difficult crowd, to be honest. There's a lot of
tough crowd, tough
lot
crowd.
lot of pent up energy there.
Certainly, yes, yes.
But eventually, I got them into teams of four, and they were all building these
Mm,
from scratch actually. So I made them do the knots as well.
mm, mm, mm. Yes. The rings are almost an arm's reach away, but I won't get the rings to show you the beautiful Viking rings and the various other things that I
Hmm.
have. But no, I think it's a very interesting idea, and one certainly that I'm incredibly sympathetic to. Just getting my simulation work to run in Rust is the current. Well, actually, getting university students to actually talk to one another and behave socially once again through a social media app is really a large part of my current thinking too. So
Hmm.
we'll need to make that work before we can get them building your structures
Right.
without difficulty. So what was you talked about them being a tough crowd? Was it just the difficulty associated with the assembly, or what part made them a tough crowd?
Attention span.
What are we going to do about attention span?
Uh, um, we can only influence our own to a large degree. So, your influence on the next generation is quite limited. I mean, you may
Without
think
question.
that you currently have a lot of influence because you are the local deity, but that changes.
Yes, my daughter comes up and kisses my arm on a regular basis and says, "I love
Yeah,
you, Daddy."
see, yeah, and then okay, I'll admit that still happens to me occasionally, but it has a different character.
Very good. Very good. But no, it's interesting with twins because you have one who is very calculating and you have another one that just wants to be a 3 year old, right?
No, yeah, no.
You have to work through those iterations with the view that they have to work out things according the energy span and okay. I think there's certainly a secret in that, Gerald. I've just got to think
Hmm.
about it some more. Um, Specifically with regards to university students, not high school students. But yes.
Hmm.
So, what else would you like to talk about?
Well, I don't know. What else is there to talk about?
Well, you commented.
The singularity?
Okay, so let's talk about that. That was always a fun topic that we brought up on Biota. Um, what's your view with regards to the singularity currently?
Yeah, that's a pretty general way to start. Uh, in certain ways, it's starting to happen,
Hmm.
um, because people can probably in a half generation or a generation or so become quite a lot more productive assisted by AI than one would be otherwise.
Yes,
So you're going to have like a dislocation of a generation or so or two
yes, yes,
because their successors will be just they'll be able to do 5 times as much.
yes. But it
So
won't be. It won't be 5 times as difficult. I've had this because being the CTO of a company now, people constantly are trying to get my attention and time. And I thought, okay, I've got a selection process that I can make with regards to this. And then I'm going to get real, genuine people that are actually going to take my time for something reasonable. And I got basically ChatGPT at the end. And it was clear that this person had just taken ChatGPT, generated 100 questions from ChatGPT that they would then send back to me, where I was looking for a personal interaction instead. And my view is that the tools still don't give the kind of quality of humanity that you and I can joke about currently. So it's a
maybe,
different kind of experience.
but as has happened in the past, we will become less discerning. Am I wrong?
That's the phenomena. That's the phenomena.
Yeah.
So yes.
No, this is these are interesting times. I'm a big fan of the stuff that Yosha Bach says in his presentations. Are you familiar with
Certainly.
him?
The name is familiar to me.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more.
Okay, well, I love the way he describes, how we're fit together in a sense. Like he basically says, okay, look, so you are not experiencing reality. Please, do not even go there, because there is so much quantum stuff happening that you are not perceiving. So
Hmm.
let's just calm down here. You are not perceiving your reality. So all you're perceiving is a model of reality.
Certainly.
So his idea is that, your brain has a built-in game engine,
Yes, certainly.
and it is always busy with comparing the output of this game engine to what it can sense.
Yes.
But you live inside that game engine. You do not perceive the outside world. You are living in a, kind of almost, it doesn't really go the Bostrom direction,
Yes.
but, you, the only thing you can experience is this simulated world that your brain fabricates for you.
Yes.
And then he goes on to say that, and that, yourself is an agent
Of
in
course.
that environment. And it's the agent that you have most influence on.
Certainly.
Um, but it is a simulation. It's a
Certainly.
simulation of an
Certainly.
agent in an environment that is sort of plausible.
Yes.
It's,
And the agent is an actor, and you have actors that are performing a play. It
yeah.
goes many iterations deep. Yes.
What's fascinating as well is that he has this thing about, he describes Genesis 1 from the Bible
Hmm. Hmm.
in a very interesting way. So he says it's not a story about how the physical world was created in 7 days. It's a story about how a psychology develops from zero to a regular human.
Yes.
So, in the beginning, God invented light and dark, right?
Yes.
So that's pretty early on, but that's just the moment that, a developing brain or mind perceives contrast.
Interesting.
And so he goes on with step by step. And then he says, like, the Garden of Eden is just like nature, only it's much, much better.
Mm.
So the Garden of Eden is a place where there's, all sorts of nature, but nothing is screaming. There's no suffering. So so he says the best analogy we have is a factory farm.
Mm.
I
Mm.
thought that was a funny one. Anyway, so basically, there's a point at which there's a distinction between male and female, and then they want to leave the factory farm and they go out into real nature. So that's how kind of the story ends. So interesting to describe it that way. But what he also talks about is the fact that you are an agent in your simulation in your
Without
mind.
question. Without question.
But some people believe in a god or
A
maybe
deity.
multiple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one could argue that that is also an agent in your simulation
Without question.
if you subscribe to such things.
That's no Blake 101 right there.
Yeah. So then basically it's I guess we some people call this intersubjective or something,
Certainly. Yes.
but the way he describes it is like a multi-mind agent.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly no Blake. Yes.
So let me see. Yeah, no, I mean, so for me, this was for me sort of, maybe it's just me being naive, but I always had a very sort of dismissive take on Genesis. How could you believe such silly things in 7 days, right?
Yes.
And you can hear the argument saying, "Oh, don't take it so literally." And then I was thinking, "So what? What is it then? It's sort of nonsense." And
Certainly.
so I would admit that Joshua Bach changed my mind because he sort of gave it a context that made
Mm-hmm.
it make perfect sense. I mean, back in the day when such things were scribbled down, people knew nothing
Mm-hmm.
about so much, right? They didn't know there was such a thing as a tectonic plate, or
Certainly.
it was a long time before Kepler, right? So
Of course.
this
Yes. But you have the scholastics, which also explains it as well, associated with
Yeah.
gathering things together and so that in some way is how the Bible is shaped through the scholastic period with a bunch of, as you say, writing here is the process that is, creating the information to carry through. So the fact that all these people are writing in scripts that they have to spend their entire lives learning and drawing and, specializing in means that some of these ideas do actually mix quite naturally.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this idea that it's all that anything you experience is not real. It's just it's a simulation created by your mind.
Mm.
I think that's in some sense that's sort of liberating.
Did you ever listen to my conversations with Heron Stone?
I have listened to some, probably not all. They did
Okay.
go on and on.
He's calling me on my cell phone continuously in the past
Still.
few days. Still. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yes.
see his stuff on Facebook from time to time. His language obsessions.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, so he's calling me currently all the time,
Mm.
trying to get me to explain things like this and various other things. He asked me yesterday what a tensor is, and I was like, "Well, where do I begin? Do I insist that he buys one of your pieces of art? I think that's what I insist, and then get him thinking from that."
I'm not sure you'd get the whole mathematics of tensors from this, but
It's a start. It's a start.
It's a start. Start thinking geometrically.
Exactly.
That's
exactly
probably to just thinking of Heron. It's probably a little difficult for him because I think he's a fairly sort of linguistic fellow.
Well, he's in his probably late 70s now. So
Okay.
he's been doing this for probably the same length of time you and I, or at least you and I don't know. We didn't start talking in the 90s, right? We started talking in the mid 2000s, I think.
Yeah, might have been. I don't remember.
Because you had the Darwin at Home thing, which Bruce Damer kind of co-opted, and I was involved with that early on.
Right,
but
right.
you were also at Biota 3, right? You weren't at Biota 2, though, were you?
Yeah.
Were you at Biota 2?
I was not at the first one. I was at the second and the third.
Oh, so you actually saw Douglas Adams speak then?
Yeah, and interacted with Dawkins even.
Yes, yes.
In fact, we were all sitting at dinner in what the hell's it called? One of these colleges at Cambridge. Big long table, all everybody having dinner, and I was looking through his book, which I think had just come out or something.
Blind Watchmaker, or which one?
It was another one. I forget which one. But anyway, inside of it, there was sort of like a virtual fish.
Yes.
Described as a bunch of, like a space frame. It looked like a space frame, but it moved like a fish. And so I was looking at this and I saw that was just the story, right? I just read there was a diagram in the book, and I had been working on software like intensely for the lead up to this.
Yes.
And I saw that and I thought to myself, I could do that. So, I went back to my hotel after and, spent quite a bit of time, but I actually built a fish.
Yes.
Which was, just basically, building chunks of the shape together and then assigning sort of muscle, behavior to them. Mm-hmm. So they would get shorter and longer. So I was able to make, by the time I was finished, I was able to make something that sort of looked like a fish. So the following day, second day of the conference, I sort of pinged Mr. Dawkins or the Professor Dawkins, and I said, "Can you take a look at this? Because in a book you have the fish here, and I think I just made one last night."
Yes.
So he came and he looked at my screen and he saw the fish moving, and I could, it was just a program, so I could change it and everything like that. And so he was looking at this for a couple of minutes just before he had to leave, and then he sort of scratched his chin and he said, "Yes. You could evolve these."
Yes. That's what I loved about the early Biota conferences. I mean, I'm trying to distill it down in a talk for an artificial life conference, and I'm just trying to say, what made, and ironically, it's the God Delusion where Dawkins quotes Douglas Adams at Biota 2, but doesn't reference Biota 2. That's been my only major interaction. I've had a few other interactions with Professor Dawkins, but that's been my major interaction with him is, why is he ripping off Biota 2 by insisting that, the conference proceedings are published on his website, not Biota's website. Then he started deep linking artwork and various other things, which the whole thing was very, late 90s, in terms of, just bad technological use. But I think he wanted to have ownership of the Douglas Adams talk. I went back to Douglas Adams' estate, actually, and said to them, why don't you own this talk? And then you can, maintain it, because every towel day for, I don't know, a decade, 2 decades, I get emails associated with, the late Douglas Adams.
Well, just to put this in a little, I guess, more context. After that, shortly after that conference, I went to Java One in San Francisco, which I used to do that habitually. I would come every year to San Francisco, and wouldn't you know it, one of the entertainers on stage at Java One was Douglas Adams. And wouldn't you know it, I knew all the jokes before they came out. So I was just sitting there watching people around me laughing.
Oh, so maybe he actually performed. Maybe this is the origin of Dawkins' ownership. This was actually stick that he did at a number of conferences, and we don't actually know which conference he first.
And they will have hung out together a little bit,
without question. So it wasn't that the origin was the Biota conference at all. It was just a Douglas Adams stick thing.
No, I was at both, or I was at Java One where he used the same stick. So it was that's the way it goes.
Very good, Joe. You held so many missing pieces. I'm trying to just wrap my brain around what more we could talk about in the next few minutes. So what would you say if you were talking to Dr. Amir Khan with regards to the Artificial Life Conference? What would you tell him? Because I've now volunteered myself to look for the student paper of the year for his particular thing. Because my big frustration with the Artificial Life, I used to look at the actual conference submission papers, not the student submission papers, and say, these papers should go through. These papers are fascinating. They explore elements in industry before even, TensorFlow or what have you, got into the spectrum. And I was like, you've got to start having a vastly more, just a chance basically for the papers to come through. Like, you don't even have to be, this isn't blocky walkers, so we're not having them in the conference kind of way about it. You just need to start having like emerging patterns in the field, pre-ML discussions associated with the potential of ML. Have you met Larry Yeager at all? Have you ever spent any time with Larry Yeager?
He was in Cambridge in '98 at Biota 2 or 1.
Was he at Biota 3?
2.
Was he at Biota 3 as well?
Could have been. I don't remember. That was San Jose.
I don't think he was there. I've seen all the videos from Biota 3. I don't remember seeing Larry Yeager.
No, I don't think so, no.
Yeah, anyway. Continue. Sorry.
What were we on about?
About the papers at the conference. Sorry, we were talking about the papers at the conference.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, to me, if there's an A-Life conference and nobody discusses this issue, then they're just, that's just hilarious.
That's just exactly my feeling as well.
That's just so far from reality, because if you want to define A-Life in any way, it would be like artificial. It's made by people. It's running on another substrate on the computer. It's looking to take care of its own survival, et cetera, et cetera. So this is like, it's like the number one for A-Life is this. And then, later on you can see about what kind of simulations you might want to make for some reason or other. But
certainly.
This has got the character.
I agree with you entirely. I mean, I think you've distilled exactly my frustration with the paper selection process. But the difficulty is, as Dr. Khan has said to me, if you look at artificial intelligence, there's a paper written every 20 minutes, right? So the problem there is
probably by artificial intelligence itself.
Probably.
And in fact, artificial intelligence itself can 10x that speed.
Certainly, without question. I guess that's the problem with distillation of information, basically. That it ends up being, two gentlemen talking over a video connection, reminiscing about all the strange shared stories we have in the past, as opposed to actually distilling down what needs to be in conferences properly. But I do like your satire. I think that's absolutely critical going forward. Gerald, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've got to take my daughters out walking in the neighbourhood now, so I've got. I did give it an hour, also for the benefit of all those people with short attention spans that have to watch us.
Right. Well,
to make it a bit easier.
Do get back to me when it arrives.
Will do. Oh, sorry, my daughters are running in currently, so
all right.
I should be saying goodbye to you, Gerald. It's been a pleasure.
Live long and prosper.
Take care.